Yo, what is up, my gamers in Christ? How are we doing today? Today is the date of March 17th. You believe it? 3 days away from the community day. If you're not already subscribed, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button because it's going to be a pretty great community day. I can already tell. Anyways, we got a lot to talk about today. Unfortunately, our top counter-terrorism official has quit. That's never a good sign for national security. Never a good sign at all. I am gonna be quiet for like 5 seconds. I have to adjust something. Alright, everything seems to be good now. Anyways, we are gonna get into some meme-worthy news here in a moment. Honestly, kind of tired. I was a little sleepy from last night. Anyways. Just collecting some news stories. It seems that Donald had a press conference with his bestie JD Vance. Probably gonna watch a little bit of that. You already know. You already know, gang. Send Ice Beams, you already know. We love Ice Beams. She's the #1 streamer. Probably Tom's channel as well. You gotta self-promo. If you're not advocating for yourself, then who is? Now, luckily, I have people in my community like Bill Clockwell who will advocate for me as well, but I do not want to depend on Bill because he is his own man, and he may have something come up one day that makes him unable to witness the streams. Damn, you guys are getting very early Cade right now, actually. You are getting Cade from, like, when he just woke up. So I'm still a little brain fried, honestly, guys. I was having dreams about I was able to move stuff. I had telekinesis. Why do I have telekinesis in my dreams, but not in real life? I think that's something we really need to look into as a society. Anyways, we'll get started with the show here in about 5. I do need to boot up a game. You know, I said I was going to play Front Mission 4 today, but I'm kind of feeling just more Morrowind, gonna be honest. Gonna be honest. Now, I've been hearing people ask for debate panels. I might be interested in doing something like that here soon. I'd say I'd be a pretty decent moderator. So I feel like we can get something like that going. But to be honest, I'm much more a master debater, you know. I like to debate. I like to exchange ideas, you know. That's just me, gang. Anyways, we'll get started here soon. I do need to enter the void. Forgot about that. The void. I need a little emoji in the void, you know? Need a little emoji to signify this is the void. Anyways. Open up some things. I already have my Ko-Fi link, so that should be fine. Let's see what's the number it's saying I have today for YouTube people. Let's see. I've got 47 people watching right now, ladies and gentlemen. 47. Whoa, watch out. I didn't know I was so popular. Okay, well, now that I know I have a big crowd, I'm going to be a little more, "Hey guys, thank you." No, I'm joking. I know there's not 47 people watching, but maybe someday, with the help of viewers like you. Hey, what's up, Steph? Good to see you, man. What is up? I saw you were in IRI's chat yesterday. Shout out. I hope you enjoyed IRI as much as I. As you can tell, I take a good amount of inspiration from the man. A good amount indeed, but yeah, he's great. Big fan of his. Some point I was hoping, well, he's not really one of the, you know, one of the YouTubers or streamers you necessarily like talk to, you know what I mean? He's much more about debating and stuff like that. I think he would kick ass on some debate panels. He had a lot of patience for trolls. Oh yeah, well, some people don't even understand. I remember that one dude called in, and I don't even think he realized he was I was trolling. But yes, he does have a lot of patience. I try to learn from that, you know, and I do think his overall mission of trying to get Democrats elected and have good conversations, it really, you know, really speaks to me. Really speaks to me. Anyways, we'll get started here in a sec. I'm gonna real quick load up the apparatus. So let me do that, and once I load up the apparatus, we'll get started. Shout out to the frogs that live beside my window. They're cool dudes. I've smoked a couple spliffies with them myself. They're righteous brothers and sisters. Yeah. If you got frog homies, shout out. They're the real ones. And non-frog homies will never understand. Will never understand. This is probably why my therapist is concerned about my mental health, but, you know, I just tell her I'm a pretty rad dude, so I don't think I've got any problems. Okay, the frogs talk to me, not the other way around. If I was talking to the frogs, that'd be an issue, but the frogs talk to me. Anyways, we'll be getting started here in a moment, guys. Like I said, just gotta fill up the apparatus so the gods don't punish me. Damn, you guys really are getting morning Cade. This is morning Cade. I just say shit, you know? Alright. The apparatus ritual is complete. We may now begin. Oh no, my game isn't showing. Anyways. For some reason it does this with Morrowind. It's very strange. Alright. Then we got the chat. Oh my goodness, it's almost like I'm a real streamer. Oh my gosh. It's almost like I'm a real streamer, ladies and gentlemen. My parents believe in me. My parents believe in me, and that's all that matters. If you believe in me, make sure to donate to my Ko-Fi. And if you're not subbed already, you might as well hit that sub button. We are so close to the 500 subscriber mark that I can taste it. I think we'll probably, I honestly think we'll get there tonight. I think we're going to have some fiery MAGA debates, and I think we're going to get there tonight. I've got confidence. Anyways, let us... I did want to watch Trump in this press gaggle before we get into the main story, so let's watch that. Let's watch the press gaggle.
Make America great again. That was a...
Wow, that right off the bat, man. He's telling it like it is. No slogans here, guys. We are speaking to the average man.
Make America great again. That was a... And we can't have this stuff happening. Right. We have to be respected. And they left. So I'm going to sign this. We'll take some questions, but let me sign this first before I don't forget. Let's see. Before I decide not to, okay?
Yes, sir.
I don't forget not to, but maybe I'll decide not to. I would decide not to. If I didn't think they could do the job, I would decide not to. But that'll be a terrible thing. I think they're going to find numbers, Andrew, I think you're going to find numbers that are far higher than you even think. And you know, Andrew came to us. He said, sir, he's read the stories about Minnesota. We know California is many times worse, but Minnesota's terrible. They're all terrible. Those cities are terrible. New York is terrible.
Minnesota's terrible. New York's terrible. Hey, why are you bagging on New York, man? Why are you bagging on New York? I thought you loved Mamdani.
That slob of a governor is terrible. And the kind of money we're talking about is just country changing. It's country changing money. It's having a deficit to having a really profitable country where you can lower your taxes substantially for people. And I think you have an opportunity to do it. And I think you two guys are the right guy. If you guys can't do it, got a problem, because nobody else will be able to do it. All right?
Yes, sir.
So I'll sign, and then we'll take some nice questions from our wonderful media. Okay.
He signed his name! He signed his name! He did it! The world thought he couldn't do it, but the man did it. Wow. They're going to write books about that signature right there, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go. Very important. It's a big deal. We've been working on this very long. Yes, see, right? Will?
Yes, sir.
Andrew, do you have a question?
Yes, Mr. President. You said during your State of the Union that this type of fraud, the corruption, is the type of thing that can shred the fabric of a nation. Why do you suppose then that leaders in recent memory haven't looked at the systemic amount of fraud that's taking place?
Because they're crooked. They make money, they gain power, they use it for power. Like with the Somalians, they vote in a block, 100%. They make a deal with the Somalians, they all vote because they're on a gravy train. It's money first, power second. A lot of people say power first now. It's money first, power second. Did you ever see where like Mercedes, people come over from Somalia, they have no money, and now they're buying Mercedes-Benz cars, okay?
That's how amazing. Yeah, that's how amazing our country is. That you can leave Somalia, and in a few years you can have a car.
Go to airport than any other place in the world or so. We can find it. And Minnesota's really bad. The governor's corrupt. The attorney general's totally corrupt. Just like the New York State attorney general, Letitia James. She's a highly corrupt person. Bragg, the DA, is a corrupt person. They're all corrupt. These are corrupt people. And we got too many of them in our country. And we have to expose them, and we have to catch them. And if these two guys can't, these are high IQ people. I've always liked high IQ. These are high IQ people. If they don't do it, we're going to go.
I've always liked high IQ. I've always liked smart people.
No choice. If honestly, and they may not do a good job. If they don't do a good job,
Thank you, sir.
No, it's possible. If they don't do a good job, the country's sort of in trouble. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Two questions.
And I think they're going to do a great job. Go ahead.
First, Mr. Vice President, Democrats are already calling you the fraud czar. What's your reaction to that title? And then second,
Good title.
Given
I like
your
it.
past skepticism of foreign adventurism, are you completely on board with the current war in Iran?
So I like fraud czar. It's certainly what we're going to do. And look, we have to do it as the president said. This is a problem that has festered in this country for far too long, and far too few people have actually wanted to do anything about it. That's what makes this administration different, is that we actually tackle the problems the American people have been confronting. So I'm very happy about it. And look, I think that I know what you're trying to do, Phil. You're trying to drive a wedge between members of the administration, between me and the president. What the president said consistently, going back to 2015, and I agreed with him, is that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. We have taken this military action under the president's leadership. I think all of us, whether you're a Democrat or Republican,
I see what
should
you're
pray
doing.
for success and pray for the safety of our troops. That's the approach that I've taken. Make it as successful as possible.
So there's no hesitation, given your past statements, with the current operation?
What do you mean there's no hesitation with my past statements?
Given your skepticism of foreign adventurism, you were critical.
Oh no, do we have Vance Soy out? No. Oh no, does Vance Soy out? No.
Global war on terror previously.
Well, I think one big difference, Phil, is that we have a smart president, whereas in the past we've had dumb presidents. And I trust President Trump to get the job done, to do a good job for the American people, and to make sure that the mistakes of the past aren't repeated. Absolutely.
Thanks, sir.
So JD's been great, but here's the simple thing. And I have, some people. I don't.
Dude, I'm not gonna lie. Trump, I think Trump smells JD's bullshit. You should look at Trump every time JD talks. He's like, oh, this motherfucker out here again with some bullshit thinking he can take the thunder after I'm gone. Fuck no. Watch Trump's face. Watch Trump's face.
Given your skepticism of foreign adventurism, you were critical of the global war on terror previously.
Well, I think one big difference, Phil, is that we have a smart president, whereas in the past we've had dumb presidents. And I trust President Trump to get the job done, to do a good job for the American people, and to make sure that the mistakes of the past aren't.
Dude, he was like, you gotta try a little hard. You're my second in command. You gotta glaze me a little better than that, man. Okay? I'm sure this motherfucker doesn't even think all presidents have been dumb. Come on now. You see, we used to have big dumb president, but now we've got big smart. Very interesting equation.
Repeated, absolutely.
Thanks, sir.
So JD's been great, but here's the simple thing. And I have, some people. I don't want wars. I want wars less than almost anybody. Peace through strength. But you know what? I've watched Iran for a long time. I called them out 20 years ago when I was a civilian that liked watching the world. And if violent...
Yeah, famously, he predicted 9/11. He knew about 9/11 before it even happened. He one day he saw Osama bin Laden on the TV and he said, "Oh, that's not a good guy. Somebody's got to get that man." And lo and behold, a year later, that very same man that Donald Trump warned about is flying his plane into the World Trade Center. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. I said, that guy's not a good guy. You gotta get him.
Vicious people, the leadership, violent, vicious people. They killed 32,000 protesters over the last 3 weeks. They put out a memo 2 days ago saying, if you protest, we will shoot you and kill you in the streets. And somebody said, oh, there's not that many protests. Well, first of all, there are bombs going off all over the place. But even if there weren't, who's going to do that? You know, who's going to do it? They don't have any guns, and the other ones have latest in line machine gun, right? And every form of gun you can have. They shoot them right through the middle of the head. They're violent people.
Exactly, Trump. So how the fuck are we going to change this war? Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, so when Trump supporters come up, I'm going to play this video and say they have no way to actually rise up. This is great.
If they had a nuclear weapon, they would use it. And sometimes I'll have some of the people that, you know, feel very strongly, like I do about wars. And I say, do you think Iran is violent and do you think their people are violent? Yes, leadership. Do you think they should have a nuclear weapon, which is massive power? I don't even want to discuss how powerful because it's depressing. And they said, no, they shouldn't have. Definitely they shouldn't have. I said, and you don't want to fight war? No, we don't want to fight war. So these are naive people that frankly are stupid. If you believe
They're
that
frankly
Iran should
stupid. They're frankly stupid. Wow, very succinctly put, Mr. President.
Have a nuclear weapon, there's something wrong with you, because they would use it within, the only question is within 1 hour if they get it or 1 day. They will use it and they will blow up the entire Middle East, not just Israel. They'll start with Israel, but they will blow up. And you got to see that when they unexpectedly started sending missiles to every country within 1,000 miles of them. I mean, they're blowing up countries that were neighbors, not necessarily some friends. They actually were blowing up some friends. They were blowing up the people that handle their accounts. They're sending thousands of missiles into countries that didn't expect to be in the war, because they wanted to take over the Middle East. And if I didn't terminate Barack Hussein Obama's horrible Iran nuclear deal, which I did in my first term, one of the dumbest deals, perhaps the dumbest deal, because of the danger involved, you would have had them have a nuclear weapon 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. They would have used it, blown up the Middle East, and they would have then come after us. And if these gorgeous B-2 bombers, give me that bomber, Andrew. Let me just hug that little sucker. Give me that bomber over there. It's like you knew immediately which one. This looks small, but in person it's very big. It's the only plane capable of carrying a 200,000-pound bomb. So I don't know how to do it, because it's very sleek and nice, but it carries a lot of weapons and there's a lot of bombs. But had I not sent this incredible machine...
He wanted to play with toys. Oh, that is so... That's adorable. Old Donnie wanted to play with toys. He was like, give me that. Give me, you know my favorite one. You know my favorite one. It is indeed the B-2 stealth bomber. You see me playing with it all the time. Now, how much do you want to bet that comes off and he's able to play with it like a real toy? How much do you want to bet? I'm willing to bet a good amount of money. Donald plays with the B-2 bomber literally every day.
To hit Iran at midnight with no moon, dead dark. Every single bomb was dropped right down the chute that it was supposed to hit. How they do it, who knows? Nobody else can figure it. No other country can do it. No other country has our military or even close. And I think we've probably proven that with Venezuela and now with because we have done a number in Iran. But if I didn't do that, if I didn't decimate, I call it their nuclear dust, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month after that bombing took place, and they would have used it on first Israel and then the Middle East. And you know that because all of those missiles that were launched against their neighbors were set long ago, long before they knew they would be using them this quickly. Had we not done this, you would have had a nuclear war that would have evolved into World War III.
The first time.
And more important, this is a war that there would have been nothing left. So we've done a great thing. The people that say it's okay for a very sick ideology, a very sick country in terms of its leadership, very good people, great people. But the people that say that, I think they're actually, they're either evil or they're stupid. So if you believe that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. They should not have it. Then you have to absolutely love what I've done, because in 2 weeks we have decimated them. They have no Navy. They have no Air Force. They have no anti-aircraft weapons. They have no leadership. The leadership is gone. But then they set up a new leadership to go and name a new leader, and that leadership is gone. And now they think maybe the sun is gone. They're all gone. My biggest problem is I have no idea who we're talking to, because nobody ever heard of any of these people. They're all dead. But we did a job for the world, not a job for us, for the whole world. We took the worst country in 50 years and maybe longer from the ideological standpoint, a country that wanted to blow up the world, a country that is sick, and it had the religious fervor. And when you add religion, you know, people don't realize more people died in religious wars than every other war put together. And that's what you would have. Had here, and it was a terrible thing. I'm very proud of what we did, and I think JD understands better than most. If you give Iran a nuclear weapon, at least a very substantial part of the world would be blown up, and it'll be used almost immediately. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You don't mind if I keep this here, do you? Isn't that a beautiful thing? You know, I used to look at it, and I said, it's a piece of art, but how can it be effective? It's so stealth. Think of it, Peter. 1 in the morning, it flies in, and they say, sir, they're in Iranian airspace, and I say, oh. And I'm watching it from the sides in, and they say, sir, they're in Iranian airspace. And I say, oh, and I'm watching it from the Situation Room with a couple of other very smart people, including some good generals, real generals, not television generals. And all of a sudden you see that dive, they start diving, and sure, and you see them 30,000, 20,000. Boy, I said, that was a lot. They went down fast to aim it. And they know they're coming, and they're smart, and they never saw them. And they're firing a little bit, but they don't know what they're firing at because they can't see a thing. And then you hear the biggest explosions that anybody's ever heard. Those are the biggest bombs. Outside of nuclear, those are the biggest bombs. And you say, what technology we have. What a great country. I built it, largely, I built it during my first term. I built it. I didn't know I'd have to use it this much in my second term. But we had an incompetent president. We had an incompetent administration. And if that group of people, in any form, whether it's Kamala, him, it doesn't matter, would have had another 4 years, we would have had no country left. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. You say you're doing a job for the rest of the world. In your conversations with your counterparts,
I was indeed muted. Oh my goodness, that's so embarrassing. Anyways, how much did you guys miss? I apologize. Today, today's an interesting stream. I'll give it to you. But I hope I wasn't muted for too long.
are they thanking you? What are the conversations like when you talk about this military conflict that's taking place in Iran?
Well, they should be thanking me, because many of them get 90%. China, as an example, should be thanking us, but I don't expect to thank you, but they should be thanking us. Japan gets 95%, China 91%. Many of the countries, South Korea gets a tremendous percentage of their oil and therefore their energy from the Straits, or as they call it, the Strait. And they should be not only thanking us, they should be helping us. What does surprise me is that they're not eager to help. There are a couple. We'll be announcing some names soon. There are some that really were right up front.
It cut off when I started. Oh, no. No, I had some fire memeage just then. That's all right. Hey, that's how it happens sometimes. That's how it happens sometimes. Anyways, I'm still waking up, guys. You gotta cut me some slack here. You gotta cut me some slack. Anyways, I was saying that I was asking, why does Trump look so frumpy right now? Why does Trump look so frumpy dumpy right now? He really does. He doesn't look happy.
It not being announced for whatever reason. I will say this: it's a lot easier to get people today than it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, before we destroyed there, before we obliterated the country, before we took out, because they're down to about 8% of their missiles. They're down to a small portion of their drones, and we've demolished many of their factories where they make the missiles and the drones, and the rest are all following. Our military has been amazing. We hit Carg Island, took out every single thing in Carg Island except one thing. We left the pipes, because if we take out the pipes, it takes a long time to build them. And at some point, something's going to happen that's positive with respect to those pipes. But there are some countries that greatly disappointed me. And, you know, I'm the one that got them to pay from 2% to 5% of GDP, NATO. And I get along great with those countries in NATO, but I always said, you know, the problem with NATO is we'll always be there for them, but they'll never be there for us. And when I hear the UK, which we sort of considered the Rolls-Royce of allies, right? When you say they were the oldest and they were going to be there, and I say it would be really helpful if you'd send over a couple of ships, and if you have some minesweepers, which they do, it'd be very helpful. And the Prime Minister is a nice man. I think he's a very nice guy. He says, well, I'd like to ask my team. I said, you don't have to worry about a team. You don't have a team. You're the Prime Minister. You can make a decision. Well, I have to speak to my people. I said, you don't have to speak to anybody. So it was very disappointing. And then after we obliterated them and destroyed their military, the whole thing, and it became a much safer zone, he said, we're going to send over 2 aircraft carriers. I said, I don't want them anymore. I don't want them after we win. I want them before we start. I don't need your aircraft carriers after we've already won. So, you know, those things are very disappointing.
That's good. I'm sure that's not going to bite us in the ass, guys. I'm sure he's slouching to hide his neck rash. Yeah, what's going on with that? Why does he have a rash on his neck? What do you think that's from?
We have 45,000 troops in Japan. We have 45,000 troops in South Korea. We have 45,000, 50,000 troops in Germany. We defend all these countries. And then, do you have any minesweepers? And they say, well, would it be possible for us not to get involved? I've been saying it for a long time. This is the greatest thing to come out of this. We spend trillions and trillions of dollars on NATO to defend other countries. And I always said, but if it ever comes time to defend us, they're not going to be there. Many of them would not be there. And we're going to have to start thinking more wisely in this country. Some have been very good. 1 or 2 have been great. I'll tell you, the great ones are at the right time. But there have been some that were right up there, Peter. They were right up there. They wanted to do it so much. Go ahead, Peter.
Thank you. You were talking about Iran a couple times today and what they did after Epic Fury began. You said they hit Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait. Nobody expected that. We were shocked. Are you surprised that nobody briefed you ahead of time that might be their retaliation?
Nobody, no. The greatest
Really?
Somebody thought they were going to hit. They were, I wouldn't
No
say friendly countries.
way.
They were like neutral. They lived with it for years.
That's cap.
Peter, they were going to take over the Middle East. They were going to knock out Israel with their nuclear weapon. But after we knocked out their nuclear potential weapon, they started building missiles, thousands and thousands of missiles. And they were going to do it with missiles while they developed. These are sick people. While they developed nuclear, somehow they were going to start at a different site, because that site was, you saw the site, the mountain. They were going to go into a certain area, which we know exactly where it is, and they were going to do that. And it's incredible what we've done. I tell you, the job we've done. You know, if I didn't terminate Barack Hussein Obama's Iran nuclear deal, you would right now, well, Israel would be gone. It would be incinerated, and probably the Middle East likewise. And remember, they got all of those missiles.
Yeah, he said that like 5 times
sending
so
missiles
far.
to UAE. I said, that's strange. You know, UAE is like the banker for Iran. They're like the banker. Qatar, their neighbors, they got along okay. Saudi Arabia, all of a sudden, Kuwait is getting hit. Bahrain is getting, all these countries are getting hit. There was no expert that would say that was going to happen. It's not a question of like, gee, should you have known? And if we did know, big deal. I mean, we have to do what we have to do. But we hit them so hard like nobody's ever been hit. We hit them very hard. And we've extinguished most of their missiles. We've extinguished most of their drones. We've extinguished most of the places where the missiles and the drones are built. We've fully extinguished 2 layers of leadership and probably a third, if you believe some stories. So we only have one thing, to have a little choke point. And they've used it very well for years, but it doesn't work. But I think this, if some of these countries that we've been good to for years, and maybe more important than that, some of these countries that get 90% and 95% of their energy from Hormuz, the Strait, Hormuz is a famous, wonderful, beautiful place, but you wouldn't want to be necessarily sailing a boat there right now.
I would not.
Okay, you know why? Not because of them, because of us. Because we've taken out their entire navy. We've taken out every one of their drone. They call it a drone layer, a mine layer. There's specific boats that are meant to put mines on. How would you like to have a nation that has 22 boats where their sole function, they're very different looking boats. You wouldn't want one for your family. They're not pretty. Their sole function is to lift a mine into the water and drop it a certain number of feet down. But they had 22 of them. We've taken out all of them. But you can probably drop them off on the boats. So we don't even know. By the way, we don't know that any mines have even been dropped. But the thought that they would scares people that have billion-dollar ships.
Whoa, we don't know? Why are you saying that, President? Oh, my God.
California, New York, of course, Minnesota. And President Trump first could ask you, you said earlier today that the new Supreme Leader talked to the committee. You don't know if he's dead or alive. There are a couple of interesting reports about him today. Just one report that he just narrowly escaped death in the first air strikes by stepping out into his garden. There's another report that he may actually be gay despite leading the theocracy that hates gay people. How do you determine what's true, and do you have an assessment of this?
Well, so far nobody knows. If you look at his father, he used to give talks a lot, you know, talking about death to America. He'd say death to America all the time. When they say death to America, you should believe them, because that's what they would have. If they had a nuclear weapon, they would have used it. But they never had the chance. I never gave them the chance to use it. And other presidents should have done. I spoke to one of the former presidents who I actually like. I actually speak to some. I do like some people. It'd be shocking. And he said, I wish I did what you did. Could have done it. Other presidents, somebody should have done it. 47 years this went on. They call Iran the bully of the Middle East. And you could have never had the Abraham Accords. You could never have had peace in the Middle East. Now you're going to have peace. You could never do it with the dark cloud of a nuclear Iran. But Iran is a shell of itself. It's no longer a bully. It's the one that gets bullied. It's a bully that got beat up. We beat the crap out of them. And they deserve that. You know, when you see a soldier walking down the street without his arms, or being helped down the street because he's got no legs, or his face is blown to smithereens with no legs and no arms, those two, no legs, no arms, and a face that got
That's not
cracked.
good.
That was done by roadside bombs. That's the favorite weapon of Soleimani, who I killed in my first administration. General Soleimani, had I not
Was
killed
that the
him,
man
was
who
beginning
cried
of
like a
their downfall,
dog?
because had he not gone, it's possible that we would not be this far advanced in destroying Iran, because he was a really good general. He was a vicious, horrible man, but he was a brilliant general. And he was looking to knock out 5 of our military bases at one time. And the man that died with him was the same, his counterpart in Iraq. And they were working together. And they got hit real hard. And if that didn't happen, we would have had a problem. But maybe more importantly than that, he was really the mastermind behind it. And they never found somebody to replace him in terms of the genius. And knocked him out. And that was a big step, knocking him out. But if we didn't get rid of the Obama deal, I terminated it. Against the wishes of my then Secretary of State. He was no Marco. Against the wishes of a lot of people at the time. You remember that, Peter? A lot of people. Had I not terminated, remember that, Stephen? You remember? They were going, no, this is not, that deal was a disaster. That was a road to a nuclear weapon. They would have had it 3 years ago, and it would have been used, I would say, 2 to 3 years ago, and it would have been used in the Middle East. And, by the way, after they were finished that, they were coming over here. They never got a chance to do it.
I just want to ask you about something very interesting that you said twice today. You talked to another former president
Yeah,
about
I
the Iran strikes.
I did.
Was it George W. Bush?
No.
Was it Bill Clinton?
I don't want to say. I don't want to say. Because
Barack Obama?
a member of a party, they have Trump derangement syndrome, all, but it's somebody that happens to like me, and I like that person who's a smart person. But that person said, I wish I did it. Okay, but I don't want to get into, I don't want to get him into trouble. Maybe, hey, you know what? Yeah, I think you probably know. You know, it's interesting. And maybe he'd be proud. I could even ask him that. Would you like me to reveal your name to Peter at Fox? Well, at least you have high ratings. Your ratings are through the roof, Peter.
Yeah, thank you for noticing.
Congratulations.
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
Your ratings are through the roof, Peter.
Got the missiles, got the first 2 rounds of leadership, Air Force gone, Navy gone. Can we wrap this war up this week?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Will we?
Yeah, sure.
I don't think so, but it'll be soon. Won't be long. And we're going to have a much safer world when it's wrapped up.
Maybe.
It'll be wrapped up soon. We're going to have a much safer world. I had an obligation to do this. I didn't want to, I called it an excursion. I didn't want to make this journey. We had the highest stock market in history. We had low gas prices. Everything was good. And I know exactly, I know what, you're going to do it. People are going to raise the price of oil. And that's it. But I know that. But that's a very small thing compared to allowing them to have, you want to see a stock market go down? Start letting them hit you with nukes. Okay, I think I said it this morning. I think it's a very small
that'll
price to
do
pay.
it, Trump.
And
That'll
frankly,
do
I thought
it.
It was going to go down much more. If you want to know the truth, I assumed that it was going to go down much more. Only because people don't understand. It's a big chess game at a very high level. It's a very high level chess, the highest. And I'm dealing with very
The
smart
highest
people.
level
They
of
don't get there.
chess.
You know, when you deal with some of these people, you're dealing with high
Wow.
level intellect, very high IQ people. These are not Jasmine Crockett and her group. These are smart people. These are really smart people, and violent people, and vicious people, and some very nice people. And some are very nice but violent. They turn violent. But you know what? If I didn't do what I did, we would have been hit. Number one, very important, was the termination of Obama's horrible deal. And number two, this beautiful plane hitting them 8 months ago, whatever it was, and taking out their nuclear capacity. That totally threw them for a loop. If they had that bomb at either time, 5 years ago or 7 months ago, if they had that bomb would have been used almost immediately.
Mr. President, 2 questions on domestic policy, bringing it close to home. First of all, the Save America Act.
Very
what are you expecting
interesting,
this week
Trump.
when this vote takes place in the U.S. Senate? Will the Vice President's vote be
I think it's imperative that it gets done. I'm not sure it is. You know, the Democrats have horrible policy. It's just incredible. But they stick together. It's the one thing they do. Their Supreme Court members stick together. Those appointed by a Democrat stick together. If Barack Hussein Obama appoints a member of the Supreme Court, that member never goes against him. And they're proud about it. They say, I don't give a damn if it's good or bad. That man appointed me, and I'm never going to let him down. I don't say that's right, wrong. I just say they stick together. Republicans go the opposite way. If Donald Trump appointed me, I'm going to show the world that I can be totally just, and I can be independent of Donald Trump. He's not controlling me. And I don't want to control them. I just want to have smart decisions. They gave us a decision on tariffs the other day that won't change tariffs. I can do it a different way. I always knew I could do it a different way. This was a little quicker, a little easier, a little better. But they gave it
A little
a
quicker, a
decision that
little
could cost this
easier, a little
country
better.
$500 billion to pay people back. Because now I have to start the tariffs all over again. Very simple. And what happens with the money I've already collected? Why didn't they say, starting from now, go the other way? $500 billion, perhaps. It's so sad. But one thing about the Democrats, they stick together like glue. They impeached me twice for absolutely no reason. Unanimously.
No reason.
Fortunately, the Republicans stuck together, and it was something. It was pretty wild. But the Democrats have horrible
was
policies.
pretty
Transgender
wild.
for everybody, open borders, men playing in
Transgender
women's
for
sports.
everybody.
But the one thing they do have is they stick together, no matter how bad the policy. It's embarrassing to watch them try to defend it. And in a way, I say, as a Republican, in a way, I say, thank goodness they have bad policy, because you'd never beat them. We have something in there now, the Save America Act. Voter ID with a picture, right? That's a 99%
Right.
issue. Even among Democrats. You know, Democrats poll at 89% on that. And then they have proof of citizenship. And then they have no mail-in ballots. No mail-in ballots. We have no mail-in. You go to California, they send out like 38 million ballots. Some Democrats
He's
got 7 8
fucking-
ballots. Republicans
He's
are
really
times
off
calling
his
in, "Where's my
rocker
ballot? Where's
today."
my ballot?" They're lucky to get one. Jimmy Carter, probably the greatest thing he ever did. I thought he was a nice man, not a great president, to put it mildly. How did his attack work
the
out?
highest-
Not too good. I think ours is slightly
one
better, would you
moment.
say? But Jimmy Carter, the one thing he did after
The highest level of intellect recognizes the worst part of nuclear war being the stock market might go down. I know, right? What a genius. What a genius. Big brained. I'm actually about to scoff down in the game a bunch of magic or a bunch of intelligence potions because they stack to make my brain big. And hopefully we'll be able to. Yeah, this is a window into a mind of a dementia patient. Oh yeah, for sure. He's not doing well. Not doing well at all. Doing
Scoop
great,
Jackson and some
sweetie.
others, they formed a very elite council, a committee that came out and said very strongly, no mail-in ballots, because if you have, we're the only country in the world that has mail-in ballots like we do. The only country in the whole world. People have tried it. France tried it, and they went away. They're now doing paper ballots, watermark paper, which is very hard to cheat. So when you look at what happens with this country, we really have to fix it. That'll be very popular. The other thing we put in there just as best of, I call it the best of Trump. We have the 3 things I just said, right? But then I added on no men playing in women's sports, and I added in no transgender surgery, the mutilation of our children. We have no mutilation of our children, no transgender. I think they say that's an 80% issue. I think they're 99% issues, but whether they're 80% or 99%, the problem is we have a couple of Republicans. They shouldn't be allowed. They're horrible people, and they're willing to vote against anything. And we have all the Democrats who vote against it. So I think it hurts the Democrats to vote against it, because I'm going to instruct all the Republicans to say that so-and-so that they're running against voted against the saving of our children from transgender mutilation, right? That's pretty unpopular. They want men in women's sports. That's pretty unpopular. They want voter ID, but the Democrats don't. Everybody wants voter ID. Everybody wants proof of citizenship. And most people don't want mail-in voting because they know it's a fraud. Touches too many hands. I mean, if the postman gets it, this one gets it, that one. So these are all issues that are in the 90s to 100. I would say some are virtually 100%. And the interesting thing is that way, not only with the Republicans, I'm not talking about leadership, I'm talking about they're that way also, most importantly, with the people. The people of our country want voter ID. The people of our country want proof of citizenship. And that includes 88%, 89% of Democrats. And I think the Republicans, Eric Schmidt, Rick Scott, Tim
Rick
Scott,
Scott, Tim Scott.
they all want it. I hope John Thune can get it across the line. He's trying. I mean, he told me this morning, I spoke to him, he's trying. I think it'll be a very,
at least he's
very bad
trying.
thing for our country if they don't. We're just asking for basic things. Think of it. You can't have voter ID. Do you know in California, if you ask a person to show their identification, they have the right to put you in jail. If you're an official and you say, "Man, please see your identification," you're subject to going to jail. That's how crazy it's gotten. With a low IQ person, you know, because Gavin Newsom has admitted
With
that
a low
that he has
IQ
learning
person.
disabilities.
Wow.
Honestly, I'm all for people with learning disabilities, but not for my president. I think a president should not have learning disabilities, okay? And I know it's highly controversial to say such a horrible thing. The president of the United States, Gavin Newsom, admitted that he has learning disabilities, dyslexia.
Oh, well,
everything.
he admitted that that's the next president. There we go, guys. Yeah, but thank God men can't play in women's sports now. Thank God. Okay? Anyways, I think that was our very first quest we've actually completed. We're winning, guys. We are winning. So good.
Thing about him is dumb. But then he looked at the audience and said, "But I'm smarter than you," or something like that. It was pretty simple. So now on top of everything else, I call him a racist because it happened to be a black audience. I will tell you this. I think it was the worst interview I've ever seen of any human being in my life. Okay? Anybody else have any questions?
Will it be necessary to use even a limited ground force to secure whatever nuclear material remains in Iran as part of that threat?
No.
And secondly, have you made a decision?
You mean to go in and get it?
Yes, sir.
Why would I tell you that?
And secondly,
You know, I can't say to reporters, "Sir, will you attack Carg Island? Will you occupy Carg?" They ask me these questions. And I don't want to be mean, but they're stupid questions. If any,
They're
if
stupid
any president
questions.
answered those questions, they shouldn't be president.
and secondly,
Oh,
sir,
really?
do you still plan to travel to Beijing at the end of this?
I don't know. We're working on that right now. We're speaking to China. I'd love to, but because of the war, I want to be here. I have to be here, I feel. And so we've requested
fuck
that
with
we
the
delay it a
war?
month or so. And I'm looking forward to being with them. We have a very good relationship.
You want to know the craziest, like... So you guys remember... do you guys remember a dude named Little Dicky? Oh my god. What a trip. What a trip that man is. Anyways, just a random aside.
But because of the war, there's no tricks to it either. It's not like, "Oh, gee, I'm waiting." It's very simple. We got a war going on. I think it's important that I be here. You know? So
Yeah.
it could be that we delay it a little bit. Not much. You, Peter?
When you say Cuba is next,
Cuba.
is Cuba, whatever you do with the military there, it seems like something. Will that look more like Iran or Venezuela?
Can't tell you that. I can tell you that they're talking to us.
Oh, I
It's a
can't
failed
tell you
nation.
that.
They have
Oh,
no money,
I
they have
can't
no
tell
oil, they have
you.
nothing.
I'm being a
They have
little
nice
silly.
land. They have nice landscape. You know, it's a beautiful island. I think they have great people. You know, I know so many people from Cuba that were treated terribly, and they're over here. They became rich. They're very entrepreneurial people, very smart. I know a lot from Florida, especially. There's so many people. A friend of mine started over with nothing. He's now the largest owner of gas stations in the country and stuff. I mean, Cuban.
Oh wow.
I also know. I was just
What
with
a what an
fantastic
honored position.
person who's Cuban and made a fortune in sugar. You know, Van Hool family, right? And this family wants to go back to Cuba to visit it. They haven't been back in like 50 years or something. They largely come from Cuba, and we'll see what happens. They were asking me about that. They want to go back. Not only Van Hool, a lot of Cubans have said, "Oh boy, would they love to go back." I think Cuba, I don't know, in its own way, if tourism and everything else, it's a beautiful island, great weather. They're not in a hurricane zone, which is nice for a change. You know, they won't be asking us for money for hurricanes every week. But I think Cuba see the end. You know, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll be having the honor of taking Cuba. That'd be good. That's a big honor.
Taking Cuba.
Taking Cuba in some form, yeah. Taking Cuba. I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I can do anything I want with it. You want to know the truth? They're a very
What the
weakened
fuck?
nation.
This is
They were for a long time.
crazy.
They're very violent leaders. Castro was a very violent leader. His brother's a very violent leader. Extremely violent. That's how they governed. They governed with violence. But a lot of people would like to go back. Okay, one more question.
Quick question
A lot of
for
people would
Vice
like to
President
go
Vance.
back.
Vice President, you announced a couple weeks ago in the EOB that the administration would be halting Medicaid payments to Minnesota until the state decided to take pervasive steps to reduce fraud. Do you have an update to that specific situation? Do you think that could be a model moving forward for the task force for states that won't cooperate?
So I don't have an update there. Dr. Oz is looking to it, trying to work with the authorities in Minnesota to try to figure that situation out. But yeah, I mean, I think there are two obvious tools that we have to stop the fraud that's happening against the American people. One is that when we see evidence of fraud, we stop the payments. Pretty simple, right? We know that the American people are being defrauded. Let's try to stop the payments and ensure that whoever's making.
You know what I honestly think would be a great way to stop fraud, guys, if we funded things like the IRS. That would really move the needle, in my opinion. Well, what's up? Oh, we defunded. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, that's not good.
Making these payments is actually complying with some basic due diligence and making sure the payments are going to the right place. I think the second tool, of course, as we have, as the president mentioned, is we have law enforcement options. We know that some of this fraud is just bad. Some of it's criminal. We know that people are intentionally trying to defraud the American people. It's not just in Minnesota. It's all across the country.
99% is criminal.
Yes, sir. So this is one of the reasons why DOJ is such an important part of this, is because we have to make sure that where we see criminal conduct, we actually prosecute it. And the president's talked about this a lot in the past. I don't need to repeat it, but it's worth noting that so many times when we find people engaged in really, really bad conduct, you know, the local judge or the local grand jury tries to stop it. One of the cool things about what we're doing is we're trying to take some innovative steps to ensure that when we find criminal fraud, we can actually prosecute it all the way to the end.
She wanted one question. She's over here, and you guys are over there. Where's your main camera? Is it this one? Which one is the main camera? Okay, good. Nice center, good. I thought it was that one. Go ahead.
Mr. President, remember I was Daily Wire, not CNN. We just want to ask about DHS, still not funded, but we reported earlier today that 80% of the primary task force that focuses on investigating terrorism is working without pay. So should that impact
Terrible.
decisions?
The Democrats aren't paying. The Democrats, we have a deal. They just said we're not going to pay. We're not going to do anything, and it's terrible. The Democrats are terrible. You know, it'd be nice to get along, but for years this has been going on, not just with me. For years it's been going on. Different ideology, but also different tactics. Here we are, we're fighting big battles with a very tough enemy and winning nicely. And we're not allowed to have security in our country. It's crazy. The Democrats don't want to pay. These are bad people. These are not people that love our country, I can tell you that. They're very sick people. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys. Thanks, press.
Thanks for all the questions.
All right, hold on. I'm doing something. I gotta unlock this door. You don't see me. Oops. Yeah, didn't. Hey, what's up, man? Doing well. Yeah, I'm just chilling here. You don't gotta worry about me. Yeah. Which one is the main camera? One of the most important questions for our president. Which one is the main camera? Alright, I think I can unlock this door without him noticing. Oh. God damn it. Anyways, that's always fun. I did want to talk a little bit about this. About how our chief counterterrorism, one of our chief counterterrorism officials, has resigned. In a lengthy statement on X, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said Kent's letter contained many false claims and aggressively disputed his arguments that Iran did not pose an immediate threat. So essentially, one of our chief counterterrorism officials resigned because he did not believe Iran was a threat and he thought we were just doing a war of aggression. So, always good. Always nice to see that. Anyways, let's hear from Hakeem Jeffries. Still waking up a little bit, guys. Still very tired.
For House Democrats, let me just begin by communicating our sincere thoughts and prayers to White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles as it relates to her diagnosis, and of course, we'll support her in any way possible back to work in full and complete health. This is a very challenging moment for the United States of America as we deal with a president, Donald Trump, and Republicans whose policies have done nothing but damage the quality of life of the American people. It was Republicans who, in their one big ugly bill, enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health centers are closing throughout America because of Republican policies, and at the same period of time, these extremists refuse to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, causing health insurance premiums to skyrocket for more than 20 million working-class Americans. Republicans have done great damage to the American people, made life more expensive for everyday Americans, on health care, on gas prices, on housing costs, on child care, on groceries. They've made life more expensive for the American people, and it's affirmatively being done by toxic and extreme Republican policies. And to make matters worse, at the same period of time, they've now gotten us into a reckless war of choice against Iran and are spending billions of dollars to drop bombs in the Middle East, but can't find a dime to make life more affordable for the American people. There's a better way. And Democrats are committed to fighting hard, to relentlessly focus on driving down the high cost of living, fixing our broken health care system, making sure that immigration enforcement in this country is fair, just, and humane.
Sorry, I'm late. I just woke up. Whoa.
That our
What's up,
taxpayer
Kayla? Good to see
aren't
you.
spent
You're
on
okay.
another endless war in the Middle East, but are spent to lower the high cost of living, to make sure that every single American in this country can live an affordable life, a comfortable life, and live the good life.
Amen.
Good afternoon. Republicans ran on border security in 2024. They largely attribute some of their victories to that. Do you think that with the SAVE Act in front of the Senate that there is a risk for Democrats? Because we see all this polling that it favors their side, that people want this in spite of the problems you have with this. Is there a risk for Democrats to have that backfire on them considering their opposition?
No, we've repeatedly made clear that the administration of elections are to be done as per the United States Constitution. This was an intentional choice that the framers of this country made, that the administration of elections are to be done at the state and local level. And states are free to make the determination as to what type of requirement there should be to ensure that elections are free and fair. Now, the United States Constitution also makes clear that only citizens can vote. That's a constitutional requirement. And states are free to implement that requirement as best they see fit. In New York State, for instance, there are strong voter identification requirements that have been embraced by both Democrats and Republicans. This is a phony issue that Donald Trump is creating. What's amazing to me is that Donald Trump had the nerve to say to the Speaker of the House, who apparently didn't object, that the most important thing that Republicans should focus on is voter suppression legislation.
Yeah.
And that housing doesn't matter, health care doesn't matter, grocery bills doesn't matter.
I think
the
this
fact
is
that
just
Republicans
fucking
are
insane.
jacking up gas prices doesn't matter. Electricity bills through the roof because of Republican policies in the one big ugly bill doesn't matter. This is extraordinary stuff, and it's the reason why Donald Trump Republican policies and their candidates are so deeply unpopular all across the country and are losing elections, as has been the case for 15 consecutive months.
Two questions. Do you see any progress on DHS negotiations? And number two, on a defense supplemental, I mean, I know you're probably against it, but how do you think through all that stuff?
Well, first, as it relates to the Department of Homeland Security, we've repeatedly made clear, Democrats in both the House and the Senate, that we should fund the TSA, fund Coast Guard, fund CISA, fund FEMA, fund every other aspect of the Department of Homeland Security that doesn't have to do with ICE or Donald Trump and Republicans' toxic deportation machine that the American people are rejecting. And for whatever the reason, Republicans have decided that they would rather shut down the whole thing than actually deal with a situation where we get ICE under control. And the American people know that ICE is totally out of control. And the only thing that will change it are things that can be built into the law that are bold, meaningful, and that Democrats have proposed, including but not limited to judicial warrant requirements before ICE agents can go breaking into the homes of American people and then ripping them out of their homes in the middle of the night. Unacceptable. An explicit prohibition is necessary on sensitive locations. ICE agents en masse who are poorly trained should not be able to target houses of worship, hospitals, schools, and polling locations. We need to make sure that state and local officials can actually criminally investigate ICE agents who violate state and local laws. There's no such thing as people having a free pass in the United States of America. We just want ICE to conduct itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country.
Amen.
Well, you know, we continue to have dialogue, House and Senate Democrats with the White House, in exchanging offers and counteroffers. And we're ready, willing, and able to find a bipartisan path forward. But the changes made have to be bold, they have to be meaningful, they have to be transformational.
Oh, it's raining in Morrowind right now.
The situation as it exists, with ICE agents unleashing brutality on the American people, killing in cold blood American citizens, and violently targeting law-abiding immigrant families. And all of this is being done with a $75 billion slush fund that Republicans built into their one big ugly bill, while ripping Medicaid and health care away from everyday Americans, and at the same time snatching food from the mouths of hungry children, seniors, and veterans. Make it make sense for the American people, because it does not. Now, on the supplemental issue, listen, the administration has not even made the case to the American people as to why we are spending billions of dollars and dropping bombs every day in Iran, while at the same period of time doing nothing about the affordability crisis, which Donald Trump continues to insist is a hoax. It's not a hoax. I travel the country. People are struggling throughout America to achieve the American dream. Many people have understandably concluded it is out of reach, and we have to restore it. And instead, you've got the administration, without any plan, any objective, any exit strategy, has gotten us into this reckless war of choice in the Middle East. So the notion that they would come up here and ask for additional money is beyond the pale at this moment. Start by explaining why we're in this to begin with.
Amen, dude. It doesn't make... I think this war is just gonna... It's a huge L for the Trump admin.
A letter to Congress yesterday asking Congress to reach a deal to end the shutdown. They also demanded legislation to, pay for aviation officials, TSA workers, all the folks who aren't getting paid right now within the aviation space. Is that something that you will support going forward once we're past this shutdown? Do you think that, in the midst of shutdown, TSA workers, all the folks who are being affected right now should be exempt from not getting paid as they're going with their paychecks?
We think that TSA agents should absolutely be paid, and it's a shame that Republicans have decided to use TSA agents and other DHS employees outside of their toxic immigration agenda space as political pawns. Like House and Senate Democrats have repeatedly made clear, we should fund TSA, fund FEMA, fund the Coast Guard, fund cybersecurity operations within the Department of Homeland Security. Republicans in the House and the Senate have rejected it. They're playing games as they always do. So that's why on Wednesday we're going to launch this discharge petition. It's the first day that it becomes ripe to advance Congresswoman Rosa DeLaura's bill. And we'll just need a handful of Republicans to join us. And guess what? Despite all the cynicism, all the skepticism that has existed throughout this Congress, as if Democrats were knocked on our back heels, we've repeatedly won discharge petitions.
Amen.
And if it comes to it, we're going to win this one as well. And so, to me, we can do this the easy way. Why doesn't...
Yeah, I heard, that person Hufflepuff called yesterday and was talking about, they want to see more fight. This is a fight. We're fighting, man. We really are. It may not feel like it, but we're fighting. And these are meaningful fights to have, you know. I think I've already cleared the slaves out of here. Oh no, I haven't. Well, guys, I mean, you guys are, yeah, you're free to go. Oh, geez, you've been, damn, you've already, wow. How long have you guys been here? Yeah, you guys are free to go. I killed the masters a while ago, I'm pretty sure. My bad, I thought I had freed you guys. My apologies. Yeah, I killed them a while back. They've just been chilling here, huh? They've just been, I mean, hey.
Just agree to put the bill on the floor. It will pass overwhelmingly. Or we can go down the discharge petition route again, and Republicans can once again demonstrate that they've lost control of the House floor and that Democrats are governing in the minority on behalf of the American people.
Amen.
As if we're in the majority.
My boy Jeffries.
Illinois primary tomorrow, as we saw in New Jersey 11.
25 secs. It's lunchtime. Well, I hope you have a good lunch, Con Radical.
I'm asking.
What was your question? What was your question about New Jersey 4?
New Jersey 4.
North Carolina 4.
If you would endorse Nida Alam if she won the primary.
And what happened in that primary?
She lost. Okay. But I'm asking about outside groups. Okay. As we saw in New Jersey 11, as we saw in North Carolina 4, the largest spender in all 4 of these House primaries and the Senate primary, outside groups, APAC and their affiliated PACs, crypto companies, AI companies. Do you have an issue with how much these outside groups are spending compared to the candidates?
I think what we need to do is to end Citizens United.
Amen. That's such a good stance. That is such a good fucking stance right there. Let's go. Let's go, lady. I'm pretty sure that's been his stance from the start, but there we go. This is what they asked for. They want to get rid of Citizens United. Oh, I thought you were asking us how long they've been here. No, I was talking about the slaves in the mine that I just found. But I appreciate the comment. Yeah, they've been down here for a while. I killed their captors a while ago. Yep, just how these things kind of go sometimes, unfortunately. You know, you kill the slave masters, but forget about the slaves. That's just unfortunate, but that's how it happens sometimes. I wish it was different. I wish it was a different case, but it is not. Whoa. We just went through that entire cave system. That was super cool. Anyways.
We can, when we're in the majority, connected to H.R. 1, which we've done twice now, when we've previously been in the majority, to change the dynamics. There's far too much money, outside money across the board, being spent in elections that should be determined by the candidates and the case that they can individually make to the American people. And this was all unleashed by Citizens United, which we will continue to strongly oppose.
Mr. Leader.
When it comes to the Iran conflict, obviously, I mean, you all have been advocating for the war powers resolution and so forth, kind of an end to hostilities. But even if you withdraw at this point, it's very clear that Iran is going to continue to deal with the Strait of Hormuz. So what, if anything, do you see as the off-ramp here, and what are Democrats willing to engage with if Iran comes back later and starts re-engaging in the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, part of the problem is that, the administration failed to prepare for this reckless war of choice. They failed to prepare for Iran's actions in the Strait of Hormuz. They failed to prepare as it relates to the fact that thousands of Americans were stranded for days, if not weeks, in the Middle East with no plan by the State Department to evacuate American
Yeah,
citizens
this is especially
in a
egregious in
very
my
challenging
opinion.
region where
No
there's now
plan
more
for
than
our fellow
12
Americans
countries
who live abroad. No plan for them at all. I mean, I think it's pretty damning the fact that they didn't have a plan to begin with, but I think this is especially like you don't care about anybody, but you don't care, man. Like, imagine being one of those people that got stuck there. You'd probably be fucking horrified. You'd be scared as fuck, dude. Yeah, I think that's gonna be a pretty big talking point here soon. Oh, we're back in the starting village. It's kind of a vibe right now. Being night and all. And it raining. Morrowind when it's raining is at its best. Anyways, sorry.
plunged into this conflict as a result of what began with Donald Trump's reckless decision to spend billions of dollars to drop bombs in the Middle East. There's no plan of action as it relates to the fact that all of these countries are now involved.
Call me Khan, by the way. That's Khan.
As it relates to Iran's response, particularly connected to the Gulf states. And now it's a challenging environment in terms of this not devolving into a conflict that doesn't simply go on for weeks, but months or years. This was a clear failure, and rather than the so-called Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, the most unqualified Secretary of Defense in American history, rather than him
I love when he says that. He really doesn't like Hakeem does not like Pete Hegseth at all. He always says the most unqualified Department of Defense head in America's history. And he is. I mean, that's not a lie. He really is the most unqualified in our history.
Weighing in favor of a merger so he can create some kind of state television situation, which, by the way, all Pete Hegseth and the FCC commissioner and others chair are doing is putting a target on the backs of these mergers. It's an irresponsible thing for them to do, even if they're trying to bring these things about. Because now the scrutiny level is just going to increase exponentially. That's what Pete
said. Hakeem fucking seems dumbfounded by some of these actions by the admin. I watch him pretty frequently. He does just seem like he can't believe he's got to deal with these idiots. It's very funny.
Has accomplished. That's what the chair of the FCC has accomplished. It's supposed to complain about media coverage for their deeply unpopular war of choice in the Middle East. Perhaps they should actually plan to keep American troops, men and women, safe.
Or at least try to sell it to the American people, you know? It feels like they're not even trying to sell the war. It really doesn't. It just feels like they know it's going to be very unpopular, and they could care less.
Because clearly that has not happened to the degree that it needs to.
Regarding Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, he has confirmation hearings coming up on Wednesday. Based on what you know of him, have you had conversations with him? And if so, or if not, what do you expect from a Secretary Mullen? And do you think that will cause a breakthrough in negotiations?
Yeah, I have not had any conversations with him relative to this nomination. I'm certainly interested in hearing what he has to say when he testifies publicly before the Senate. But our position has also been clear, and I articulated this in a letter to the caucus earlier today. A change in personnel, as disgraceful as Kristi Noem was, and it's not over in terms of our scrutiny of Kristi Noem, 'Cause she's
Hey.
super corrupt.
Oh, she's super corrupt. She's not just fucking corrupt. Fuck yeah, dude. They know it's term 2 and they couldn't give a fuck. I hope GOP starts thinking about their political futures soon. Me too, dude, because I really do not see the Republican Party in its current form existing in the next 10 years. Like, they have to have some major changes, or there may be they might implode on themselves, honestly. Like, Democrats, we're pretty solid in our leadership, in our institutions, but Trump has fucked so much up for the Republicans. I don't know how they get past him.
Hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. And so accountability is further coming her way. It's a long list of them, but it's further coming her way.
I like to hear that. Kristi Noem is, as he said, super corrupt. I'm going to get up and get something, but when I get back, I'll tell you guys a little bit about her corruption.
That a change in personnel is not sufficient. We need a change in policy. We need dramatic, bold, meaningful, and transformational changes so that ICE conducts itself like every other law enforcement agency in the country, that they behave like local police officers, state troopers, or county sheriffs, as opposed to running around using taxpayer dollars to...
Super solid, to borrow a phrase. Yeah, so Kristi Noem has her fingers in a lot of pies, ladies and gentlemen. So the number one pie, obviously, is the advertiser deals, right? Essentially what happened was she gave preferential... She essentially gave preferential treatment to somebody that worked for her husband, or was very close to her husband, in a advertisement campaign deal that featured Kristi Noem, funnily enough. But that's not it. That's not it. She's got another finger in another pie, and that would be the massive amounts of money the U.S. government has shelled out for these make-em-up deportation centers. You know, we're talking double what the price should be. And, you know, I'm sure they're looking into it as well. But if you look into some of these owners for these warehouses, they seem to be, you know, kind of connected in some way to the Trump administration. It's, you know, I'm still looking through it and still parsing, but it's very I mean, we're talking upwards of billions of dollars here that she may have embezzled. Quite insane.
And kill American citizens or violently target law-abiding immigrant families. The American people have had enough, and Democrats are going to continue to stand up for that principle.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. You said that as of right now it's beyond the pale that the administration would come and request more supplemental
The whole
funding,
self-deportation scheme, it's wholly
have a
corrupt.
briefing where you received an explanation, you felt
I don't know how that works, the self-deportations, but I've just been focused on the, you know, these people in this admin are the like, they're going to go down as the most corrupt motherfuckers in our history. So, you know, I'm not surprised I miss a couple because there's just so much.
they need more money to support the troops. What would you consider about that funding being put in that reconciliation?
It's beyond the pale right now that the administration is even floating the notion that they want to come to Congress, who they've chosen to ignore, meaning they've chosen to ignore the American people, then want to make their case to the American people. It's one of the reasons why the war is so deeply unpopular right now, out of the gate. By the way, this has never happened before. But the American people see so clearly through the consequences of this failed effort to plunge America into a war with no strategy, no objective.
3.3 billion while in office, breaking records out there. Yeah, dude, it's It's fucking insane. These people really are going down as the biggest crooks in the nation's history. And I hope some of them are held accountable. I set myself up for we're not going to catch these dudes because unfortunately they're going to pardon themselves 10 years in the future, but believe me, I would love to see some of these people held accountable. Fucking get wrecked, mud crab. We need crab meat. Yeah, rightfully so too. I agree. These people are gonna be laughed out of fucking. Like the history books are gonna look so horribly upon this period. And you gotta think, like, what are they even gonna say? What are they even gonna say? It's so insane. How do you explain it to somebody just easily? Fucking die, crab. Ooh, 2 crab meat. I'll take that.
That it is beyond the pale that the administration is now floating the possibility of coming to Congress and asking for tens of billions of dollars more in taxpayer dollars. How about spending some money to restore the Medicaid cuts that have ripped health care away from more than 14 million Americans? How about finding a dime to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits? Let's start there so we can restore health care insurance affordability for more than 20 million Americans. How about doing something about the skyrocketing costs of gasoline prices?
What the hell is a
because of
girdle
what
tail?
Donald Trump has done in the Middle East? How about actually walking away from the reckless Trump tariffs that have imposed thousands of dollars in additional costs on everyday Americans? This administration has been a complete and total disaster, a man-made disaster, inflicting pain and suffering on the American people. And so there are a whole lot of things that need to be dealt with before we can, in good conscience, evaluate any hypothetical supplemental funding request that is presented to the Congress. Thank you, everyone.
How far can Rod Strickland take LIU?
First of all, let me just say.
Don't talk about St. John's.
Let me just say. Listen. Well, I root for the Big East in the NCAA, so I am rooting for UConn. I'm rooting for Villanova, but St. John's was robbed with a number 5 seeding. There's no justification for that. But we're very excited about St. John's. We're very excited about LIU, which is in my district, and very excited about Hofstra, which is just outside of the city.
And UConn.
You didn't mention Miami of Ohio.
And UConn.
Well, it's a great story.
Dude, like, he's too smooth. He's too fucking smooth. I'm sorry. Like, I hear all the time that the lefties don't like him. I think he's smooth as fuck, dude. Smooth criminal out here, bro. I don't see what they don't see in the man. I see a smooth criminal. Hold on, I'm dealing with some things right now. I'm allowed... Okay, so just to be sure, like... We need impromptu investigations. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think Kristi Noem, truly, she's fucked, dude. She is actually fucked. Like, she's been pretty caught dead to rights embezzling money, in my opinion. So, I don't see much hope for someone like Kristi. Oh. Wow, who'd have guessed a door can stop a spirit, ladies and gentlemen? Who would have guessed that? I wouldn't know that. That's insane. A door can stop a spirit. I'll be damned. Hell. Okay, then. Anyways. I did. Oh, I don't know why I was watching that. I do remember watching. I was watching Miller's Planet time lapse. Oh no. Jamie Raskin about to drop a legal bomb on the Trump officials. Yeah, that's the sound of Jamie Raskin's legal bomb. Let's go.
I'm joined now by Congressman Jamie Raskin. Congressman, thanks for joining me again.
Brian, thank you for having me on.
So, Congressman, you have some news to share about a new criminal referral that you're working on right now as it relates to a former top Trump administration official. Can you explain what that news is?
Whoa.
Well, I mean, we can't allow people to come before Congress and then lie or conceal material facts, both of which
I think that's a good law.
It's against the law to make material false statements under oath, period. And then there's a specific statute which adds that you can't conceal material facts from Congress when you're testifying in Congress. And Kristi Noem came here, and it's just inescapable that she engaged in false statements and concealed material facts from Congress repeatedly.
So in terms of whether or not this criminal referral is successful, the criminal referral goes to the Department of Justice. And so if we're talking about putting the fate of whether or not Kristi Noem for lying to Congress, putting the fate of Kristi Noem in the hands of Pam Bondi, I think it's clear to everybody
if you're talking
what
about
Pam
the
Bondi is
game,
going to do, or I should say what she's not
that's
going
just
to do.
because I don't really
And so how do you overcome the obstacle of the fact that this is a Department of Justice and an Attorney General who are there not to uphold the law without fear or favor, but rather just to run a protection racket against Trump and all of his acolytes?
Well, I sent this letter with Senator Durbin from the Senate Judiciary Committee.
My boy Durbin
poison.
poison.
In our letter might be the simple restatement
That's my boy
of what
DB.
the federal statute
DBP
is on lying to Congress.
Yeah.
And that's 5 years. And that takes you beyond the Trump administration. So all of those well-trained cabinet officials in the Trump administration who think that their job is just to cover up for the president and to lie in every context possible must reflect on the fact that we have federal criminal statutes which make it a crime to lie under oath, and those actions, those criminal prosecutions can be brought for a 5-year period.
So if we are in a world where Kristi Noem is held to account, there is a criminal referral sent to the DOJ and a subsequent Attorney General, one who is not there to just protect Republican officials, but rather to uphold the law without fear or favor. If we enter that world, then why would it just be limited to Kristi Noem? There are other administration officials or other figures in the federal government who have also committed the same violations. I think these are 1001 violations lying to Congress. Just a few weeks ago, Pam Bondi sat in front of a congressional committee and said that there is no evidence implicating Donald Trump or tying Donald Trump to the Epstein files. That's patently false. Now, the credibility of that evidence notwithstanding, she didn't make that caveat. She said there's no evidence tying Donald Trump to any criminal activity within the Epstein files. And we know that there are interviews where Donald Trump was accused of committing crimes that are contained within the Epstein files. And so how are you thinking about this, about consistency as it relates to lying to Congress?
Well,
in a world where perjury is a crime,
that Noem engaged in are easily contradicted by the public record. So, for example, she said that DHS always complies with court orders and always follows court orders. We know that there were at least 210 cases that have been cited by courts themselves where the
Resignation Tuesday over operations
and
and
the Department of Justice even
I talked
admitted
about that a little bit
cases.
earlier, Steph. I don't know if you caught it, but yeah, we're down. We're down a counterterrorism investigator. Or counterterrorism official. One of our top officials in that regard. So that's good. That makes me feel good inside about the future of our country. You guys aren't gangsters, are ya? You guys are friendly. Oh, nope, you're a gangster. You want to meet the end of my blade? Well, have at thee. Oh, geez, I may have bitten off more than I can chew. All right, we're going to do this thing called... Oh.
And yet she
I
said,
love it.
not. Okay, so that's one where we
I gotta fucking cheese the system a little bit. We gotta get intelligence potions.
But then she was also lying about things that she did where it would be tough to know without, pretty deep investigative work that she was lying. But we were able to determine she was lying, for example, about this $220 million contract where she told the Senate that that was the product of competitive bidding. That was a lie. My colleague, Joe Neguse, refuted her and said, here's the form you filled out to escape competitive bidding. You said you were invoking a national security exception. Why you needed to invoke a national security exception for a PR contract, to show you on horseback, out in the Wild West, is a little bit weird. But in any event, he showed that wasn't true. And then she said, oh, well, right, but, we looked at different bidders, but those were all different friends of hers. So that was a dodge about, the competitive bidding process. So the bottom line is you can't come and lie before Congress any more than you can go and lie in court. And we've got to hold the line on that to show that the perjury laws and the material false statement laws mean
lunchtime's almost over. See you later. Bye-bye, chat. Well, have a good rest of your shift, dog.
False statements, not just
good
Bondi,
seeing
for
you,
example,
Con.
which was the example that I brought up before, but also what about these Republican Supreme Court justices who, when they were just nominees sitting in front of the Senate for their advice and consent hearings, they said that they respected stare decisis and respected precedent, and then immediately went and overturned Roe versus Wade. I mean, there is this sense as people watch this that you can say whatever you want to Congress, and then once you're in a position of power, you can flip-flop immediately, and there are just no consequences for it anymore.
That's right. Well, look, my point is this. The Supreme Court justices are in a somewhat different category. Like, they all got up and they swore their fealty to stare decisis and precedent, but then it's very easy for them to invoke various exceptions to stare decisis when factual circumstances have changed, when the law has changed, and so on. That's pretty slippery. So that's tough on that particular case. But the ones you've invoked with respect to the Attorney General are serious and real. And so we simply need to get the word out.
I didn't realize I didn't have the
way.
main gaming stream
on. My bad. You can't get up and lie before Congress under oath the way that Donald Trump can get up and lie the way he does every single day from the White House Oval Office or on the tarmac someplace. Yeah, nobody can get him on that. The Supreme Court has said that under the First Amendment, you basically can't make it a crime to lie unless somebody's under oath or unless we're talking about fraud in order to deprive somebody of their property and so on. But we can't get so conditioned by Donald Trump's lies that the word goes out among the cabinet secretaries that you can go ahead and say whatever you want. Now, the interesting thing about Attorney General Bondi was she refused directly to answer questions basically from any Democrat. She changed the subject, she evaded, she began talking about irrelevant stuff going on in other parts of the country and so on.
She had I think she had her little burn book as well, so everything devolved into a personal attack against every Democrat.
She turned it into ad hominem attacks. Yeah. All of that was a way, perhaps on her part, to avoid committing perjury. Because the truth is, none of them is going to say anything that contradicts Donald Trump. Now, one of the ways that we assert that Noam lied was with respect to Donald Trump, because she was asked the question, did you tell Donald Trump, did you get his approval? Then did he know that you had this $220 million contract? And she repeatedly said, both in the Senate and the House, that she did. He directly refuted that and said he didn't know anything about it. One of them is lying. She was under oath, and if she was lying, that's perjury. He wasn't under oath, and he lies all the time. So that might be the one that's hardest for us to prove. But in any event, one of them is definitely lying.
Congressman, is there anything that Congress can do to vindicate crimes against Congress, which is to say lying to Congress, committing perjury, or committing contempt of Congress, to vindicate crimes against Congress if and when the DOJ inevitably abdicates its responsibility to adjudicate those things?
Right. Well, one thing we can do is we can wait for a future administration to come in if the statute of limitations lasts that long. That was the point I was making before. But we also can hold people in contempt of Congress. There's an old power that Congress has called inherent contempt. And the Supreme Court repeatedly ruled that the Congress has the power to render both civil and criminal contempt charges. Civil contempt being holding someone or finding someone until they give Congress what Congress has demanded in a subpoena, whether it's testimony or documents or what have you, but also criminal contempt. You can be punished by Congress for acting in contempt of Congress, which would include lying. And there were people that we're talking a century ago now, but who were held in contempt of Congress for engaging in behavior like that.
Well, it's been almost a century since we've seen this massive wave of corruption and greed. So I think that we need to start using those laws. All right, so this is trapped. How much? Oh, it gave me mana? Thank you. Is this somebody's dog that I'm killing? Yeah, it looked like I just killed somebody's dog. That's okay. I'm about to kill you too, friend. See me? Hey. You see me? I'm coming for you. Fucking idiot. He opened the trapped door. Or she, my bad. Didn't mean to misgender you, ma'am. I apologize. You come here often? This, it's a nice spot? No. Well, unfortunately, she didn't really have the ability to tell me. It seems like a nice spot. I don't think I'd complain too much being here. We've got to heal. Right now. All right. What is a Nyx hound? I mean, to be fair, I did just kind of barge in here and attack them. They could be like totally peaceful people that don't rob people, but I just kind of came in and attacked them. And to be honest, I'm the criminal here. I'm the criminal right now. Nobody else is the criminal. I'm the criminal here. But that's just how things go in Morrowind, gang. If you don't have insurance against a wizard with a magical sword, then I don't really think you were thinking too hard. Rat meat, let's go. Rat meat, I'll take all that. Thank you. Well, they were feeding them to people, so I feel like that might be a bad omen at the very least. A worn cavern door, a worn cave door. Well, I don't know about that one just yet. Another worn cave door. Hello, ma'am? Oh. I was hoping if you guys had... Do you guys have directions? Oh, no. Sir, your wife seems to be unconscious right now. I was wondering, do you have directions to, Balmora, potentially? Unfortunately, I have some business that I need to do there, and, you know the roads these days. Always a little hectic. Will you just fucking die already, man? I'm kidding. Anyways. Lovely weather. Yeah, I know. I agree. You see, it was raining earlier. Oh, well, you seem to have fainted. But, I'm going to take your gold, if you don't mind. Take your war axe. Seem to have some mid-level stuff on you, so let me see what your wife's got. Ooh, a chitin short sword. I can definitely use that. Thank you. What is this? A fat loot. Yeah, I'll take the fat loot. That's why there is no mental institutions at all. There's a second part. That's why I have a learning disability. It's because they use shock therapy on... Sent you part 1, part 2. This is part 3. This is why they shut all of that down. Yeah, shock therapy is proven not to work. So it's kind of insane that that's an idea that we had. Can we agree? It's kind of fucking insane that that's a idea that we just had. Yeah, shock therapy. That's gonna make people... Yeah, that'll do it. Hold on, how much is this book worth? Whoa, I'm taking this book. Don't mind me. Well, I mean, we can rest. This seems like a nice bed. I wouldn't mind, I wouldn't mind a little setup like this. This is not bad at all. Not bad at all. Was it worth it for 5 gold coins? Probably not. Hold on, I rested, but I didn't heal. What's going on here? Oh, we got a secret chest. Uh-oh. Anyways, let me continue with the video. Sorry, guys.
Consider looking into in the event that Democrats retake the House and Pam Bondi and this DOJ continue to abdicate their responsibilities to uphold the law?
Well, there was a lot of talk about it during the first Trump administration when we had a majority in the first 2 years, and a lot of people explored it, and people were even looking for the old jail that nobody could find that was somewhere in the maze of the Capitol basement to see whether this could be done. It never really crystallized legislatively, but it could crystallize legislatively in the future if we continue to have spokespeople for the administration, cabinet secretaries, coming forward and blatantly lying to Congress.
Is there a world in which that contempt power could be used to compel the release of the Epstein files if we're at a point where Pam Bondi continues to refuse to release these 3 million outstanding documents?
There is nothing in the inherent power of contempt that would prevent that from being used in that way. Now, we shouldn't have to, cite the inherent power of congressional contempt to get the executive branch of government to comply, not just with a subpoena, but with a federal law. But we will use any means at our disposal. But basically, Congress would go to court to say that there's not compliance.
Blew her away.
The federal government is not itself.
That's how powerful I am.
But I would say we have
Better
to
be
use
careful.
any means at our disposal
That's all I'm
to
saying.
restore the rule of law in America. And we are living through this absolutely atrocious reign of lawlessness and terror, as we saw in Minneapolis. And, you know, if you've got government agents who think that the Constitution doesn't apply to them and the rule of law doesn't apply to them, then you're going to end up seeing U.S. citizens getting shot in the face by government agents. And that's where we're at. Donald Trump, who feels absolute immunity and impunity because of some things the Supreme Court has done, has let the message go out throughout his administration that they're somehow above the law. And that's what makes it such a dangerous moment.
And actually, I wanted to ask you about exactly that, which is some news that Greg Bovino, who was formerly the person who was overseeing all of these
Greg
operations,
Bovino.
Renee Good and Alex Preddy, were shot and killed in the streets of Minneapolis. That there is reporting now that he will be leaving government at the end of this month. Can I have your reaction to that?
Let's go.
Yeah, now I don't know under what circumstances, because I'm hearing this from you. I'm not sure I saw that before. There does seem to be an effort to change the subject. Minneapolis was an absolute political Waterloo for the Republican Party, where millions and millions of Americans turned against them for violating not just the rights of immigrants, but the rights of U.S. citizens, to the point of shooting them because they were bearing a lawful firearm consistent with state law and the Second Amendment, to the point where U.S. citizens are being shot down simply for exercising their First Amendment rights. So they're not supposed to use, apparently, the phrase mass deportation anymore. The public understands that mass deportation is shorthand.
Whoa. Wow, that's good that they're not using that anymore. Took them long enough. Wow. Do they want to fucking pat on the back? Wow. I think that's funny. Like, that is such an obviously blatantly horrible thing, like, like, the idea of mass deportations. That is pretty dystopian, in my opinion. And so now the Trump administration's a little, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. That's a little scary. Even though they've been totally fine saying it before, but now it's interesting, huh? Turns out the public don't like those mass deportations you're doing.
And for violating the rights of the people and trampling the Bill of Rights. So I don't know whether getting rid of him now is part of that, or like most of them, he wants to try to cash in as quickly as possible and make money as quickly as possible, because I understand that the whole thing from jump ball is they're trying to make as much money as possible off of the American people. And Donald Trump has made billions of dollars in just over 1 year in office.
Doubled his net worth.
We believe that the Trumps want to make themselves the richest family in America before they leave office. Or
definitely. I believe that.
Congressman,
I don't know about you guys, but I believe
one last
that.
point, and that is that applications are now open for the Democracy Summer 2026 program. And this is a program you and I have spoken about at length. So can you give a little bit of an introduction on what that is for folks who don't know about it and why it's so important?
Well, I appreciate that, Brian. It's for high school and college kids across America who are paying attention politically, or maybe just starting to pay attention and want to get more engaged and involved. And so you sign up with Democracy Summer, you will get to participate in nationwide campaign Zooms.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
With people like Heather Cox Richardson and Larry Tribe.
Hey, getting out to the young kids. That's good.
Nancy Pelosi, you name it. And
I kind of wish there was something for, like what's going on with Chorus. I did sign up for Chorus. I haven't, I don't think I've received an email from them, unfortunately, but, like something that's going on with Chorus, we need more support for our liberal media apparatus, guys. We really do. We're making good strides, but to make up for the Republicans, we gotta start getting more serious about it. And I do see a good amount of people getting serious about it. There's just some people that are not very they're not I don't think they're made for the time, personally. I'm not going to say who that is. It's no one I personally know, but there are some people that I just do not think are made for the time. I didn't want to say this to you, but the reason why transgender people is scared with small towns is because the history of transgender people. Yeah, I understand that. And I want to change that. I do not want, I want small towns to be a place where any American can come and enjoy their freedoms and not feel like they have to get harassed by officials about who they are. Thank God I need this, dude. Boost me up, brother. Give me that magica. What I need to do here soon is I need to break the system. I don't know if I downloaded the potions mod, or the mod that makes potions not stack, but if I did, I'm removing that. Because I want to get 10,000 intelligence. Bro, you're not using any magicka right now. What are you doing? Alright, this was your fault, man. I was trying to benefit from... I was trying to be symbiotic, but you just wanted to be parasitic. My brother could not help me when I moved into a small town of Washington, which is like Port Angeles. I got stabbed there. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear about that, Kayla. You don't deserve that.
And then you go out and you exercise your First Amendment rights by involving yourself with the campaign. And there, people are engaged in door knocking,
I understand.
in canvassing, in
well, I don't think that should have happened to you,
voters, what
and
have you.
you did
And so
not deserve
it's a
that.
really great life-changing opportunity, but you'll be able to change not just your life, but your country too, because young people have been dramatically affected by things going on, whether we're talking about war, whether we're talking about the high cost of housing and education and groceries. And young people need to be engaged in this process. And that's without even getting to some overarching crises of our time, like climate change and like artificial intelligence, that young people need to have their voices engaged in.
Well, look, if anybody watching is in high school or college or know someone in high school or college who you think would be a good fit for this program, I could not recommend it
super cool.
highly enough. I've been a major fan of this for years.
I would have
and years
loved
and years. So
to have been a part of that program when I was a child. So,
of this video. Again,
if you know anybody like me that likes politics and is in high school, share that. That's interesting. That is interesting. Anyways, let's check what's going on in the news. Today might be a shorter episode just because there's not much going on. We can watch this Epstein. We'll watch this Epstein piece real quick. I'm going to get a stretch.
Joining us now, one of the members of that bipartisan group, Democratic Senator Ben Ray Lujan of New Mexico.
Senator, so good to have you at the table. Let's start with the request that you're making of the Government Office of Accountability into the DOJ, an audit of the DOJ over their handling and release of these files. Do you believe at this point that the GAO is still operating as an independent entity?
Look, I believe the GAO is still operating as an independent entity. And I'll say this, is my Republican colleagues have been trying to get rid of the darn place. We need an independent scorekeeper to tell us what something costs, what something is, and what something is not. And sadly, right now, it's one of the few places where you can still get some facts associated with what policy is and what it's not.
You know, Pam Bondi has repeatedly defended the Department of Justice's compliance with
the law that Congress passed, that the president signed. And obviously, I think we can all, anybody that, can see, hear, touch, feel, or have heard, knows that that is actually not true because there was a deadline. The Department of Justice notably did not meet the deadline. So by virtue of that, they are not in compliance. What do you think you're going to find with this audit?
The question in this audit is abundantly clear. It's a very simple letter. There's 12 items on here that say you need to ask some answers and specific questions here. And what it's saying is, who did the Department of Justice appoint to do this? What did the Department of Justice tell them to do? Which political names did you tell the folks doing the work to cover up or protect them and not put them in? And why in the world, if this was done correctly, were the victims' names not redacted? There was one mistake after another here, and so this is just very simple. And the work of my colleagues here, I just want to, say thank you to Senator Merkley and Senator Durbin and Senator Murkowski. This is bipartisan with the inquiries, and if I go back home and I talk to constituents, Democrats, Republicans that voted for Donald Trump as MAGA, they want to see what's going on here. And then the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. So there's too many questions back home.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the Zorro Ranch in New Mexico. In fact, your Attorney General for the state, Raul Torres, did an op-ed and noted, "I want to be honest about the challenges ahead. Epstein has been dead for years. Zorro Ranch has changed ownership. Physical evidence may no longer exist, and the statute of limitations has likely run out on many potential offenses. These are real obstacles, and survivors deserve to hear them stated plainly. But we will follow the evidence wherever it leads and leave no credible question unexplored. At the conclusion of our investigation, we will issue a full public report. The people of New Mexico and those who were harmed are entitled to a complete and transparent accounting of what we found and what we did not." This has now been bought and is in the process of transforming into something, I guess. What is your understanding about this ranch? Why the feds stopped the investigation regarding the ranch earlier on when Epstein was alive? What do you know about it and the sale and what's going to happen to it? And because a lot of bad things happened here. And as the Attorney General noted, it requires an investigation so people understand exactly what happened.
Well, two things are happening right now, Michael, in New Mexico. One, the Attorney General of New Mexico, Raul Torres, is moving forward with that investigation. Number two, the New Mexico State Legislature, under the leadership of State Representative Andrea Romero, working with the governor of the state, Michelle Lujan Grisham, they passed legislation to create the Truth Commission. So there's two different sets of eyes that are going to be looking at what happened in Zorro. Now, what I can say with my review of those unredacted files when I went to the Department of Justice, there's no question that there were disturbing, disgusting, illegal acts that were taking place. And even if you look at the redacted part, the victim in Florida who flew maybe to New York and then went to New Mexico, and then there's victim after victim that landed up in New Mexico. There's even photos that are in the unredacted version. It doesn't show who's in them, but it's showing what was going on in New Mexico.
Interesting.
And quite honestly, Michael, there's no good reason. There's no good reason why the Department of Justice should have stopped investigating this. Everyone should have been looking at this. They have a private airstrip. They were using commercial space as well. People were driving in and out. I mean, it's just disgusting what was going on there. And the fact that someone decided to pull back to protect some people is what I'm guessing. There's a question that I have about who was covering up for whom and who got the benefit here. But it's just disgusting.
Well, and you also start to see how there was a patchwork happening here that made it very difficult for these survivors to actually find justice. For one thing, New Mexico simply had at the time different laws on the books that changed statute of limitations. In addition to that, the investigation doesn't open in New Mexico until 2019, after the statutes of limitations had expired for some crimes. That investigation was shut down at the urging of federal authorities in New York, who were building their own multi-state case, but left the ranch largely unexamined. I mean, you just see systematic failure after systematic failure, right? The fact that New Mexico was not able to launch their own investigation back in 2019 because of what was happening in New York, because of what had happened in Florida, it all begins to, I don't know, it begs more questions than it offers answers.
Conspiracy theory lives.
Absolutely correct. There are only more questions associated with why this thing got trampled on, if you will, or why New Mexico was told you need to stay out of this. And in the end, it's the victims that no one was looking after when all of this stuff was going on as well. Again, if you go and you read these files for yourself, whether they're the redacted or the unredacted version, New Mexico is mentioned in there, Zorro Ranch is mentioned in there, the flights going in that way, on the private airstrip, the commercial airline. I mean, there's just no question the stuff that was going on there.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Can I get your thoughts on Greg Bovino? We've now heard that he has plans to retire at the end of the month. This is from Axios. Gregory Bovino, the Border Patrol official who became the face of the Trump administration's aggressive immigration crackdown, plans to retire at the end of March, he told Breitbart, Texas. Didn't know Breitbart had local outlets. Bovino led President Trump's immigration operations in Minnesota, but was sidelined after federal agents killed 2 U.S. citizens. He returned to his prior role in El Centro, California. Are there questions for Greg Bovino?
Well, look, first, good riddance. He's eligible for retirement like in a year. But why isn't anybody investigating the 2 people that got killed, that got murdered, American citizens, while he was in charge? And by the way, Secretary Noem was in charge as well. And now the 2 of them just find another job, decide that they're going to retire, and everything goes away? BS. I need to be careful with my language, Simone, but BS to that. That is just, it's just ridiculous. And again, another cover-up. My parents, growing up, they told me, the lie's bad, but the cover-up's worse.
Come on.
And
Amen.
Everything that we're seeing right now, it's one set of cover-ups after another, questions that are not being answered. And if this guy was there, what was he telling these agents? We now know that they were hiring agents without training them. There's at least 3 Proud Boys that we know that work with ICE now. There might be others as well.
Wow, that's insane. Yeah, well, I'm waiting to see what happens with this. Let's take a look at what CNN has to say about the top Trump official.
We just learned, get this, the director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Joe Kent, has just announced he's resigning. CNN national security reporter Zachary Cohn is joining us right now. Zachary, what more can you tell us about this dramatic development?
Yeah, Wolf, this appears to be a significant resignation at the senior-most levels of the Trump intelligence community. This is Joe Kent. He was the director of the National Counterterrorism Center. He appearing to post on X a resignation letter that he submitted citing misgivings over the Trump administration's decision to launch its war with Iran. Now, Kent, in this letter, writes
this
in
is
part, quote,
bad.
as a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel,
Whoa. I was 12? Well, I'm sorry to hear about that, Kayla. I really am. But whoa.
Cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people, nor justifies the cost of American lives. Now, Kent, in his apparent post on X, does also seem to suggest that there was no imminent threat, that it has been used and cited by the Trump administration as justification for launching this war against Iran. He says that essentially the administration manufactured this idea of an imminent threat, and that is part of the reason why he is deciding to resign from his post today.
Let me read a little bit from this letter that he wrote to President Trump. This is Joseph Kent. He works for the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. But he writes this. He says, I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. I support the values and the foreign policies that you campaigned on in 2016, 2020, 2024, which you enacted in your first term. Until June of 2025, you understood that the wars in the Middle East were a trap that robbed America of the precious lives of our patriots and depleted the wealth and prosperity of our nation. And he added this, in your first administration, you understood better than any modern president how to decisively apply military power without getting us drawn into never-ending wars. You demonstrated this by killing Qasem Soleimani and by defeating ISIS. He goes on and says more, Sabrina, but those are powerful words.
I think what's also important here is this is an appointee that was not someone that you could consider not aligned with the president. I mean, this is someone that espoused the MAGA MAGA-based views and was appointed by, of course, Tulsi Gabbard. And so the fact that he has issued a very public resignation, and the fact that he's also said that Iran did not pose an imminent threat to the United States, a case that was made by Donald Trump multiple times and many other officials in this administration, including the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, saying that Iran posed an immediate threat to the United States. And he's someone that clearly had access to intelligence matters, saying that they did not. I think you could potentially see other resignations from this administration, people deep within the MAGA base that do not support this war of choice. And frankly, it is a war of choice. It is something that the president chose to do. And he has said, you know, kind of on his own conscience, that he decided to initiate this war as well.
Yeah, he has said, he even said that he got Israel on board.
Yes.
But in this letter, Joe Kent says he believes that this is started because of pressure from Israel and its American lobby. I'm wondering, General, what you think about one of the last lines here. He says, "You can reverse course and chart a new path for our nation, or you can allow us to slip further toward decline and chaos. You hold the cards." I'm wondering at this point, several weeks into this war, you have Iran saying that the Strait of Hormuz will never go back to the conditions where it was before. How do you chart a new course?
He needs to cut his losses, that being President Trump. He needs to cut his losses and shut this down as quick as he possibly can. That would be the best thing at this solution. You know, I'm not sure if he's got the capability, the wherewithal to actually do that politically. But I mean, this is not going well, and it's going to get worse. And bully for Mr. Joe Kent for having the political courage to stand up for what he believes. You know, this is a guy that's a big-time MAGA supporter, has always been, very much like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who you had on your show yesterday. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are significant resignations from the MAGA world, and people need to take note. And I hope that this leads to the resignation of other members of the administration, because he is absolutely spot on target. This is not in the best interest of the United States to continue this war, and President Trump needs to shut it down as quickly as he possibly can.
Well, one can hope, but I doubt that's
from his resignation letter. As a veteran who deployed to combat 11 times, and as a Gold Star husband who lost my beloved wife Shannon in a war manufactured by Israel, I cannot support sending the next generation off to fight and die in a war that serves no benefit to the American people nor justifies the cost of American lives.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've already seen 13 American service members die in this war. Over 200 have been injured, and their conditions have ranged from very serious to some have been returned to duty. But I think, you know, we've heard Pete Hegseth say this time and again, that more Americans could lose their lives. And I think this letter makes it very clear. Is that worth it? Is that worth the cost? And this is someone that's obviously gone to war on behalf of our country and seen the cost that it takes, not just on the people who are putting their lives on the line, but on the country. And so I think it is really important that not only is he putting this out today, but this is someone that is a deep figure within the MAGA base and someone that is aligned with the president and is breaking very publicly with him.
And it's personal for him, as you noted, Wolf, that his wife was killed in Syria in 2019 by an ISIS bomber. You know, I just want to go back to you, General. Clearly, you don't agree with this war. But at the same time, Israel is saying that it has taken out more top Iranian officials, including one who has been overseeing a lot of what Iran has been doing in its counterattacks. And I just wonder if you see any progress, any benefit so far from this war in terms of safety toward the United States because of some of the people who have been taken out.
First of all, I commend the military performance thus far in the war. I mean, it's been superb. And look, no one's shedding any tears for the Khomeini's demise and a new Ayatollah and the aggressive nature that they have had towards in the region and been a threat in the region. I mean, I'm all for doing something about the Iranians, but we were not provoked. And the problem here is that we're in the middle of a long war, at least a long war for them. I mean, I remember what Henry Kissinger said about Vietnam. He said that, you know, the Americans will lose by not winning, and the Vietnamese will win by not losing. The Iranians just want to sustain themselves, stay in power as long as they possibly can, continue to harass the United States, like attacking Baghdad and the embassy there and whatnot, and stay alive long enough so that they can claim victory. And that's what they will do if they do this long enough.
Let's go actually to the White House, where we're going to find our Kevin Liptak, who's been tracking any responses coming from the administration. What's the latest, Kevin?
Yeah, nothing official yet from the president, although we're expecting to see him any moment now in the Oval Office with the Taoiseach of Ireland. He's here for St. Patrick's Day. But you do hear, officials who are within the Trump orbit beginning to sound off on this. One former White House official described Joe Kent as an egomaniac, someone who is resigning this position in quite a high-profile fashion. And I think that is probably along the lines of what we will hear from the president if and when he decides to respond to this. But I do think it will be difficult for him to entirely dismiss this resignation as someone, with Trump derangement syndrome, as someone who is a Trump enemy, as he does so often, just because Joe Kent has so often aligned himself with the president. He is of the MAGA wing of the party. That's how he ran as a candidate for Congress 2 times in Washington state, and it is why he was selected for this position in the first place. His confirmation was not an easy one by any means. He was, very narrowly confirmed by the Senate, and all of these questions about conspiracies around the 2020 election, about potential ties to white nationalists, all arose in his confirmation hearings. And for all of those reasons, I think it will be difficult for the president to sort of entirely distance himself from this individual who is now coming out very publicly decrying some of the perceived rationale for the war in Iran. And I do think it will also put in a very difficult position Joe Kent's boss, the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who has espoused, in previous lives, the very same positions about questioning the adventurism of previous iterations of the Republican Party, questioning nation-building pursuits. She, too, was a veteran, just like Joe Kent, and so putting her, I think, in a difficult position. But certainly we expect to hear from the president very soon, and hopefully he will be asked about all of this.
We'll see what he says. All right, Kevin Liptak, thank you very, very much. I want to bring in CNN K-File senior editor Andrew Kaczynski, who's joining us on the phone. Andrew, I know you had previously reported that Joe Kent gave a previously unreported interview back in 2022 to Grayson Arnold, a Nazi sympathizer and white nationalist. A spokesperson for Kent, who was then running for Congress at the time, said, and I'm quoting him now, Joe Kent had no idea who that individual was when he encountered him on the street, and Joe Kent has repeatedly condemned the statements that the individual is accused of making, end quote. Andrew, what more can you tell us about Kent's past?
Well, look, Joe Kent's resignation is dramatic, but it's really not particularly surprising if you look at his record. He's a former Green Beret. He did numerous tours overseas. His first wife, Shannon, was a military member who was killed overseas in a suicide bombing in Syria that targeted U.S. troops. What's remarkable here, too, is that he entered politics in 2021 to primary a Republican who had actually voted to impeach Trump. He had 2 failed bids for Congress. And when he entered politics, he specifically said it was in part because he witnessed, and this is a direct quote from one of his videos launching his campaign, the failures of the government establishment in keeping us at war in the Middle East, watching officials, as he said, quote, lie about regime change wars.
Damn, it sounds like this really must have pissed him off then.
He railed against endless wars. In one of the interviews he gave, he literally said, let's not start a new war with Iran. That was the 2021 interview. At the same time, as you mentioned, he has been a polarizing figure during his congressional run. He did face repeated scrutiny over contacts with far-right figures and extremist figures, which he later disavowed. And of course, he works for Tulsi Gabbard, who before joining the administration had a long history of opposing war with Iran. And not that long ago, just 5-6 years ago, she was literally selling, as she ran for Congress, merchandise that said no war with Iran on her campaign website. So this also puts a lot of questions at her, as has been mentioned here. But ultimately, I do think that his resignation here reflects his longstanding opposition to American intervention abroad.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me see. See if there's anything else I need to cover. No, I think we should be good, honestly. honestly, ladies and gentlemen, I'm probably gonna head out. Let me just check how many viewers I got right now. Shout out to the people watching. I really appreciate that. If you guys enjoyed this stream and you want to see more streams like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll be live, as always, at 6 p.m. CST, where I'll talk about, where I'll debate MAGA. Actually, I'm going to enchant this sword real quick, okay? Let me enchant this sword. Nordic broadsword. Oh, I have no soul gems? What happened to all my soul gems? What the hell? What the helly? What the helly? Who stole my soul gems? That's racist. Damn, I don't even think she has any. Yeah, she has one for 400. Jesus. Costing me an arm and a leg, lady. Well, I guess we'll find, See, I don't want a short blade. I want a long blade. I like long blade, not short blade. Does she have any, unlock? So I can just use this to unlock her goddamn chest so I can actually get done with my duties? No, of course not. Alright, you suck. Kick rocks. Anyways, guys, we get to bed and I'll head out and go sleep. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna head out. Thank you guys so much again for watching. It has been absolutely an amazing time with you guys. I'll be live at around 6 p.m. CST, so look forward to that. And also, keep being the most badass people in the world. Anyways, until then, peace, gamers.